Today we will be covering MMPH06 Organizational Dynamics, Block 4 that is Inter-Organisational Dynamics. We'll cover Unit 10 that is Cross-Cultural Dynamics and Unit 11 that is Managing Alliances and Coalition. Let's understand first about the cross-cultural dynamics. Before that, we need to understand what the culture means, how the term is evolved. The term culture has been adopted from the Latin word cultura, and in the broadcast sense, in a broader sense, it is a result of human action. It was quoted by Hall in 1959 that culture is a pattern of taken from granted assumptions and about how to given collection of people should think, act and feel as they go about their daily affairs. The concept of culture has proved to be fuzzy concept of varying relevance of various scientific projects. Its definition varies from very inclusiveness, like culture is the human made part of environment. So it is clearly stated that the culture is made by the human, it is created by the human, which human themselves are the part of the environment, which is more of a shared meaning. They share the values, they share the norms, they share what their thoughts, their feelings, and that create the environment which creates the culture further. The culture includes the common values, common beliefs, common attitudes, common behavior, common norms, heroes, that is the morals of the people, the symbols, the customs, rituals, ceremonies, assumptions, perceptions, and etiquettes. All these things, it's seen, are very common in one particular community, or that creates the environment within the human community, and that creates the culture that is defined and meant as a culture. So culture is all about the patterns. It is a pattern which is simultaneously synced, a product of human action as well as the determinant of future human action, how they react, how they take the action, what they feel, what they thought. A composite of meanings and associated traditions. The culture follows the tradition, they follows the rituals, the ceremonies, as per their religion, as per their environment, as per the human values and traditions, which define, inform, and constitute the range of understandings and investments. So, culture is made up of research variables, which was quoted by Segal in 1986. In 1987, before that, there are other scholars, Pottinger, Van Beedwiger, and Joanne van de Koppel, defined culture. It is merely a label, and that empirical testing is an idea or judgment about the entire class of objects, the people, the events, and the assumptions. By uncovering the similarities as well as the difference in the behavior across culture can create the problems. Now, according to them, these scholars, it is just an label. It is all about the idea or the judgment which is stated, which was a result of about the particular community or particular group of people or a class of people, or maybe something event happened due to some tradition or ceremonies or rituals. So these are uncovering the similarities as well as the differences that created, that is seen in the behavior of the people, their norms, their values, and further it creates the problem because of the differences and in the attitude and the behavior of the people within the same groups. There are two important values which distinguish people from one culture to another. First is core values. Core values are those values which the human being is set up during the childhood socialization, and is very difficult to change, because they have seen from their childhood that what are the traditions the family is following or the community is following, whatever the rituals they are following, what is the eating habits, the values, the norms they are following. So it gives a long term impression since the childhood, and they, by their programming or their behavior made up with that, with those values or traditions or so-called, the religious ceremonies, and whatever be the norms of the community or the society. Then there are peripheral values. Peripheral values are set up by the later life. Once person grows with the age, with there may be change in the environment, there may be change in the place because of the geographical locations. It is set up in the later life and it is changeable. The peripheral values can be changed by organizational socialization, but not in the core values. So core values are what we generally say that a person grows up with those values. They have specific set traditions or set values within them since childhood, and peripheral values they gather from the society, from the outer world, or maybe with a change in their own behavior as well. There are different key dimensions which is given by different scholars. The session says that relationship with nature, human activity and human nature, time, truth and reality. There are other scholars who say that Trompners say that are quoted in fact the relationship with nature, it is relationship with the nature, that relationship with people versus people universalism versus particularism. They quoted on individualism versus collectivism, achievement versus ascriptions, diffuse versus specific, and there is relationship with time. It is time bound. Then there is another relationship about the human nature relationship with nature is individualism versus collectivism, and the human activity is depends on being and doing. That is, either they are in the same phase or they are into the executing phase. They quoted the space which refers to the private or public. The space can be private of a space of people of the human activity, or it is a public that everybody knows about that. The time refers to the past, present and future span of time. The hall also quoted about the space that is personal or physical, whereas we have seen that the space before that it was more the quoted the specific terms used was private and public, whereas hall quoted space can be personal or physical. Personal is, that is, one, a person thinks about, what a person follows internally, and one is what they are doing in front of the society. The time can be monochromic or polychromic. Language can be high context or low context. Hafiz quoted the key cultural dimensions on the basis of power distance, that is uncertainty avoidance, individualism versus collectivism, masculinity versus femininity, because there are different cultural dimensions given by these scholars on different ways out. It can be masculine or feminine, it can be based on the space, it can be based on the time, the human nature relationship, whether it is collective, individualistic or collectivistic approach. So there are different dimensions which these scholars have quoted in their research. There are certain underlying cultural assumptions. These are further bifurcated into external adaptation, internal integration, and linking assumptions. It is shown in the Venn diagram. The external adaptation refers to when there is a relationship with nature, when there is a control on that. The uncertain avoidance is there. Doing versus being is more focused. Achievement versus encryption is more focused. Nature is reality and truth. Whereas the internal integration is all about the personal, or we can say an individualistic approach on a human nature, basically good or basically evil. The nature of human relationship can be on the basis of social versus task orientation, or it can be hierarchical, it can be individualism versus collectivism, it can be either way. Whereas the linking assumptions are the space we have just mentioned before in this before slide also. The space can be referred to personal or physical, or by the other scholar the space can be private or public. The personal and physical, or private or public. The language can be high or low context. The time can be monochromic or polychromic, and it can also be taken in a dimension or different parameters, that is past, present, and future. So, how the organization culture creates? Because when we see from a cultural perspective, it is not only about the society. When we see from workforce, when we see from organizational context, how it is made, how it is created. The first phase, or the root of it is philosophy of organizations founder. What values they come in with, what is the mission and vision of their organization, how the person is, what is their view or their perspective of seeing the things. Then there is a selection criteria. Selection criteria further refers to the socialization and the top management. So the selection criteria, what are the how the strategic team works, how they take this culture further to the different hierarchies. And socialization is all about the society, the industry, and these two combinedly makes the organization culture. So there are different characteristics. The primary characteristics, there are 7 primary characteristics of the organization culture, which are innovation and risk taking. The degree to which employees are encouraged to innovate and take risk. Second is attention to detail. The degree to which employees are expected to exhibit precision, analyze, and take the details. Outcome orientation, the degree to which management focus on the results or outcome rather than techniques and process used to achieve these outcomes. People's orientation, the degree to which management decisions take into consideration the effect of outcome on people within the organization. Team orientation, the degree to which work activities and organizational around teams rather than individuals. Aggressiveness, the degree to which people are aggressive and competitive rather than by easygoing. And stability, the degree to which organizational activities emphasizing on maintaining the status quo in contrast of the growth. So when we talk about the organization culture, whether the top management or the strategic people, the maybe with the designations of CEOs and general managers and vice presidents, like whether they allow their employees to take the risk, they allow their employees to innovate, to come with the innovative ideas. Are they people oriented or not, are they really team oriented or not, what are they really focus on the detailing part, and what kind of work, what kind of freedom the employees have to take it further, to involve themselves in the innovative or risk taking activities, and are they really going to be in a very easy going or a comfort zone atmosphere or an environment, or they are quite aggressive and they are aligned with the organizational goals or organization mission and vision of the the organization. So these all things creates the culture of an organization. So when we see culture as a source of competitive advantage and disadvantage, let's understand about about all these advantages and disadvantages from different dimensions, different perspectives. Culture is not just a problem to be solved. Culture is a strategic resource. It is a resource which creates a competitive advantage rather than an obstacle. So the Porter's view of national competitive advantage is more of the availability of resources, the size and application, the sophistication of markets, the government policies, rules, regulations, and their interventions, the trade policies, the strategic networks and initiate and the linkages. Whereas the role of institutional network is also need to be very strong, because here um, the institutions who are working, those who are creating the future leaders, how good they are into, link with the companies or link with the industry for the further creation of the culture. We can say broadly the industry culture, and on an organization point of view, it's about the organization culture. Japanese management model is deeply embedded into the arrangements, where it is based on the mutual trust. It is the effectiveness of them is linked with government involvement, their policies, their union system, their own interform networks within the same the product line or the services. um, Cultural shapes acceptable business behavior. When we see from a collective approach, the close cooperation between the firms and the government is very important, and it is seen as a normal in this model. And on an individualistic view, there are similar behaviors which may be viewed as collusion or unfair practices. So they are more on collectivist culture, where the interfirm network is very strong, and that not only the interfirm network but also aligned with the government policies and government rules and regulations. France, when we see from France, then it is an advantage turning into disadvantage. Here, the weaknesses are they are very rigid. They are more of an hierarchical mindset, and the lack of flexibility is there when they are rigid. So they don't allow everyone to take the decisions, or don't allow everyone to to bypass the policies and the norms, whereas their strengths are also major into the technological interventions, and their close state industry relationship. So the because of their rigidness and their low in flexibility turn it into a disadvantage, whereas the Denmark and the cultural norms discourage standing out or appearing superiors. Here the risk is more of that they are low aggressive marketing. They are not very focused on marketing functions, and they are when there is less marketing, then they are also on the lower side of their competitive drive in the international level. SAS under Jan Carlson, it is stated that market-oriented and customer-focused strategy clashed with Scandinavian egalitarian values, where it shows how culture are limit strategic change. Because when the culture is rigid, when there is no flexibility, when the flexibility is not allowed to the employees, so it became the static, and it limits the people to come out with a new innovative ideas or new innovations within the organization, which is a very major part of creating the organization culture. Culture and institutions interaction is a competitive advantage which emerges because of the institutional systems and economic structures and overall the cultural norms. Dynamic nature of culture competitive advantage is the strength of the past become the future liabilities. The managers must continuously assess. There is a need to assess or need to monitor whether the culture supports current strategy. It is not important that the culture which was developed or which was made maybe 10 years back, it survives as on today's work, the same work, today's work environment also. So regular assessing and regular monitoring and is very important to understand the current strategy, and to maybe if required it can be changed as per the workplace requirements. Managerial implications are based on the evaluation, the monitoring of the managers, that how the culture influences strategic choices and whether it needs to be changed and how much to be changed, whether it is aligned with the competitive demands or not. So that can be done on a regular basis, the regular you know monitoring and further controlling on specific parameters. Let's understand how we can recognize the culture. Culture is difficult to see from within. People find it hard to describe their own culture because it is taken for granted. It is seen that, it's like a fish in the water. The culture becomes visible only when we are outside it, confronted with another culture. So it is very common, because let's take it from an organizational context example. An employee who's working in a good organization, who is said to be a good organization in an industry, they now it is seen that they are not very satisfied with the work, or they are not very satisfied with the environment. They are not very satisfied with the work culture, what is so called the cultural the organization culture. Once they are out from the organization and join another organization, then the comparison comes, and then they feel that there is a, because before that there was no comparison. So they think about, they take it into a comparison mode, that because this is how we treat the culture, because that is not visible every time, that is not visible to on every dimension, every parameter. So that is very important to understand, to react accordingly. Culture becomes visible through contrast. Exposure to the culture helps individuals to understand their own values and assumptions better. Here the culture refers to the travel, the outsiders, or the cross-cultural interactions. So outsiders often notice cultural traits that insiders overlook. So the people from outside the organization see that that culture in a different way, whereas the people within the organization generally take it for granted, because they don't have the comparison. The people outside the organization, they compare the values, they compare the assumptions, they compare, they get into the contrast perspectives. Culture is a perceptual lens. When we see culture, it shapes how we see others, how others see us, what is our perspective, and how we see the world, how we see the industry. People tend to judge other cultures using their own culture as a reference point, which is leading by ethnocentrism. It can also create the perceived hierarchy of cultures where one culture is seen as superior. So normally it is seen that culture is seen as per their own referencing point, the values, on the basis of core values, how we brought up, and how we the traditions, or maybe the rituals what we are following. So they created the benchmark, or they created the reference point of that. Fourth is importance of recognizing cultural difference. Recognizing a difference is very important. It is the first step of maintaining the cross-cultural business interactions. Awareness alone is insufficient. Differences must be openly discussed and avoid misunderstanding. Because when we work in a cross-cultural organizations, people coming from different backgrounds, different religions, different geographical locations, different values, the upbringings, the way they treat the socialization. So that is very important to understand that, and here it is important to recognize the differences. Then there is another technique which is known as Johari window as a tool for cultural awareness. The Johari window explains what I know about myself and what others knows about me, and we have to find out, one has to find out the blind spot which is unknown to self or others, because these blind spots are very to recognizing or finding out the blind spots are very important, because then only one can be able to move these blind spots to the open area or the arena. That is what I know about myself and what the other people know about me. That is the open area. So maybe what which religion I belong to, what tradition I follows, about the attire, about the language, of the dialects. So there the self disclosure and feedback is important, because individuals can reduce the blind spot. One, the blind spots are recognized, and blind spots are those areas where the I'm not a self as a self, as a person, I'm not aware of my own capabilities or my own way of seeing the things, but the other person quoted that, the other person knows that how the way I am quoting the things, or whether I am cultural biased or not. So maybe from my point of view it is correct, but from the other's point of view it is not correct. So they give a blind spot, they quote it, they give the open feedback on that, and that creates environment where these blind spots can be moved to the open areas. And improve on the cultural interactions. So, cultural blind spots in business interaction, where it is obvious and discussable, direct and indirect communication, either way, whatever is feasible. Uh, Others are unconscious, leading to confusion or defensiveness. So, unrecognized culture factors can damage the relationship despite the good intentions. So, sometimes the way we are reacting to certain values or norms, sometimes it may create a confusion, it may damage the interrelationship, which largely or affects the organization. Then there is role of stereotypes. Stereotyping is natural and inevitable in cross cultural encounters. It helps to simplify reality but can also distort it. So stereotypes becomes problematic when stereotypes are fixed, when they are treated as fixed truths. They are very rigid. All individuals assume to be same. This leads to forcing reality to fit preconceived mental files. So it becomes stereotyping is it's natural, it's not bad, but it becomes a problem when it is very rigid, when a person really think that this is the only way of doing the things, or this is the only way of taking the actions or react on specific factors. Then there is effective use of stereotypes can be uh, on the basis of the explanation or of from different perspectives to observe clearly. So stereotyping is very natural, and it can be see from a different perspectives, and if required it can be change over the period of time, or it may be taken into consideration to avoid the complexity of the relationships. Moving beyond stereotype is all about aware of influence. It's not to deny stereotype or to act them, but to aware of their influence. Managers do not need to imitate other culture, but should understand how cultural difference affect the interactions. There is cultural briefing useful, but limited. Cultural briefing is all about the basic awareness about the business customs. The true effectiveness comes when it is developed in a shared way of working together, imposing one culture on the another. So, in an organization, when an organization is, you know, uh, having an inclusive culture, they are working on cross-cultural people within an organization. So, it is very important to follow the collaborative way and shared way of working together, where the outcome can be the true effectiveness or the effective organization, or maybe a good organization that creates a good organization culture. So overall, when we see cultural spheres are based on different ways, that is on the national level, on regional level, on industry sphere. There is another that is from a company's perspective, that is relates with the industry. For functional, relates with the founders, the leaders, or maybe the professional is all about the education, training. These are all interlinked, because unless they are not interlinked, if they are working on a different spheres on a different as a different category or a different area altogether, then if they are not aligned, so it is very difficult for an organization to work on a cross-cultural dynamics. So in an international management, in an the organization which is working on cross-cultural dynamics, so these are the areas, these are the spheres which follows the geography, industry, political, economic forces, that is on the national level, whereas there the education and selection of the people, the socialization of the people are relates with the professionalism of the people, of the employees who are working, whereas the regional refers to the climate, the heritage, the geographical location, the language. See how the alliance works on that, how the organizations come together and work you know within the same country or maybe the different country. So alliance is a concept which is a cooperative arrangement between independent organization. When different organizations come together, maybe within the same country or across different countries or maybe from various points in the supply chain, these alliances occurs. They go beyond one-time deals, serving on ongoing collaborations to pursue future opportunities. It is recognized since early 70s as a key business strategy. There are different benefits of strategic alliances, that is by gaining the synergistic benefits, combating competitive threats, assessing the latest technology, expanding market reach, improving financial strength, achieving the sustainable competitive advantage. Alliances helps organization beyond respond to uncertainty in the market. This signal that the firm is taking proactive action. These proactive actions are taken by the firms before they decide for the alliances. Alliances are good for extending or when they are reinforcing the competitive edge, but not usually sufficient to create it alone. They create new possibilities that would not exist if each operated independently. So the alliances comes together mainly to combat the competitive threats, to come to reinforce the competitive edge, and to expand together and to work together to achieve the sustainable competitive advantage. So alliances is not only a combination or coming together two firms or two organizations, but also to synergize the benefits to to achieve the organization, not only from a to overcome the competition, but also the financial strength to create a organization which they would not be able to do it independently when they are operating individually. So the forms of arrangements of the strategic alliance can be highly formal, which is inter-organizational relationship, or it can be informal with no shared ownership or shareholding. So it can be formal, it can be non-formal, that depends on the alliance structures. So there are certain factors that influence the form of alliance, that is asset managements, networks, common form of alliances, the licensing, the franchisees, joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions, when two or more independent organizations come together for merger or acquisitions, or maybe due to some to increase or strengthen their financial abilities, or maybe because of the competition. So this is or to create the new joint organizations. So each organization have their own values, own assets, which they form in or they come together in the form of alliances. So, formal and informal strategic alliances, let's understand first the formal alliances, which is known, and the examples are joint ventures and consortia. Relationships are formalized through shareholding agreements are there. The contracts are designed, and the structured contracts are designed by giving the details of all the assets, sharing and profit distribution. Joint management of assets is required. The assets can be separated from parent firms without serious negative impact. For example, the expertise used the joint ventures can be shared without harming the parent company. Informal alliances happens to be like a networks or the opportunistic alliances. There is no formal ownership, or there is no contract which is signed between two organizations. They operate on the basis of the mutual trust and advantage. More flexible, they are typically the venture specific. So the collaboration needs to stay flexible and adaptable. In only then it is possible. The mutual trust, the collaborative approach needs to be the pillar of the informal alliances. The intermediate form of alliances can be in form of franchising, licensing, or subcontracting. Franchising is when the franchises manages key activities like manufacturing or distribution. They handles the branding, marketing, training of the employees. They the packaging of the quality control is taken by the key parent company. The licensing is one firm grants another the right to manufacture the patent product for a fee. And subcontracting is when the company outsources services or components or process to the another firm. It is very common in the manufacturing processes nowadays. Most of the big companies are subcontracting and outsource their services or the manufacturing facilities to the other firms for the processes. The quality control and the new product development is done by the parent company, and further it is pass it on to the services, outsource the services or the components. Then let's see about the characteristics of the intermediate alliances, which is nature of intermediate arrangements are very important, because contractual relationship without ownership involvement. For example, setting a manufacturing distribution in a foreign country with operational challenges. It happens to be when the specific assets are separated from the parent company. Then is strategic purpose of partnership. This is another feature where the long-standing practice of global business is seen, and use of profit and growth, especially in cross-border expansion. The historic motivation, that is the initial alliances driven by desire for captive markets, or to access the raw materials at the low cost and the low cost inputs. The other feature is structure of early cross-border alliances, where the local partner are acted as market entry point and the resource suppliers. Then is power dynamics and control. The dominant partner usually had management control. It's all about who have the major control or major equity in an organization during alliance. It is unidirectional communication and decision making. Focus on home country shareholder interest are there. There is limited conflict in early alliances because lack of major disputes happens to be due to the historical colonial ties and the perceived teacher discipline relationship between the partners. There is a reason, there is a rationale for cross border business partnerships, which lies in first, universalization of customer preferences and taste. Second can be rapid disperse of diffusion of technology and increasing rate of obsolescence. Third is internationalization of financial markets, and finally the emergence of global competition. So all these four reasons are known to be as cross-border business partnerships. We are in the rapid technological changes, and every day we are finding out new product coming in the market. Finances are, most of the companies get into the alliance due to the finances, or maybe to cope up with the global competition. And of course, the technology is one of the major factor which is increasing in a very rapid way. There are certain implications of the developments. The markets are becoming so large for any single organization or a service to to service effectively. So there needs to be experts, the technology, the finance, the resources, the capital, everything is should be synced, and sometimes it's very difficult for one organization to handle all these things, or to cope up with the risk and to cope up with the changes happening within an industry. The risk of technology dispersion, and it is one of the very important factor, very important implication while of developing the alliances. The internationalization of finance is of course all the bloodline of any organization, which turns and need for the local partners to foster and involves the investors to arrange or facilitate the processes or the operations. And the global competition, of course, it is required, where the alliances are required to cope up with the global competition, because here the cross border or the international market involvement is there. Alliances in India. When we talk from an Indian context, the alliances happen to be because of the economic liberalization as a catalyst, where it led to surge the alliances between Indian firms and transnational companies. The alliances trends and statistics has said that in 1991 it started the way of 285 alliances, where it reaches to 1.208 alliances in 1990. That is 1208. Key drivers for alliances formations in Indian context is all about the policy reforms, shift from greenfield investments to mergers and alliances, corporate restructuring, and role of BIFR, that is Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction, where firms are no longer required to post 2 consecutive years of losses. The net worth erosion alone was sufficient. The results is more firms becoming acquisition and alliance targets. The restructuring of organization is all about the core competencies of the organization, and the relaxation of FERA and MRTP Act and the Industrial Development and Regulation Acts also plays an important role in alliance formation. The challenges and realities of strategic alliances in India refers to the reduced legal barriers, because once the alliances happen, so it reduces, because the Indian companies, if they are partnering, or the mergers and acquisitions are happen to be within the international organization, so the legal barriers are lesser. historical trends of alliances waves happened to be in 1977 to 85. That was a early waves of the mergers and alliances, and there is it was seen that it was in peak during 1995 when a lot of multinationals comes in India and started their operations in India. So there is rising number of alliance failures also, because over a period of time the alliances increased so much that the churning happened, the failures also happened simultaneously. Then there was another challenge, which was common misconception and managerial shortcomings, which is more focused on that it is the misconception that alliances are meant to be permanent. It can be time bound, it can be depends on how the processes work, because that is a span of time, or the collaborative advantage they are taking. Importance of effective alliance management, that is successful alliances or successful mergers and acquisitions have some specific management principles which can be discussed further. So there are key challenges, mainly based on the size differential, ownership structure, conflicting objectives, cultural differences, and management styles. So these are the major key challenges in strategic alliances. Now, how the alliances evolve? Alliances have different stages, different phases of the evolvement. First is courtship period. Second stage is romantic nature of alliances. Third is compatibility key to success. Fourth phase is engagement phase, and finally the final phase is formalizing the agreement. Let's understand in detail about all these phases and how the alliances evolve overall. First is courtship phase. Courtship phase happens when there is initial interaction between the organizations, when they come together, evaluate on the mutual interest, their, how on the basis of, their attraction, their reasons, their, are they aligned with a mission, what is their vision of moving further with which is aligned with other organization. Then after this there is an exploratory phase where the alliance making options are explored with different market arrangements, the technology, the licensing, the government rules, regulations, policies. Here it is more focused on how the relationship can be built, whether it can be built or not, and whether it is worth of pursuing with the same objective or not, or maybe it would create the value for both of the organization or not, because this is a phase where the exploring of alliance making options has seen. And the key elements is of this is on open dialogue and trust building. The mutual trust is very important, and how to get along with them with the different dimensions. So, and the initial compatibility is very important, which align with the strategic goals and culture. Then is romantic nature of alliances, where the hopes and dreams comes in picture, partner selection process is there, self-analysis, chemistry and rapport. So when we talk about the hopes and dream, we are talking about the optimistic ambition or the future dreams of the company, the vision of the company, how big a organization can see itself in an international market. Then the fear of missing out is a rare opportunity and is also a motivating factor. This is very important phase where the selection process is very important, where the selection process like in a relationship partner selection process, that phase is very important, because the entire that is the base of a building. It's like base of a building, that it is on that the building or the trust or the relationship builds on. So this is done on the basis of the self analysis, chemistry, and compatibility. In a same way, like the partners must first understand their own organization strength and weakness. They can do the SWOT analysis, they can do the cost benefit analysis to create the confidence and strengthen the foundation of the partnership. Both the organization has to sit again and again on a repetitive mode on their own position, but also comes with the changing business environments. And the chemistry and rapport refers to the personal rapports. It refers to the values, the personal relationships, or the personal branding, personal bonding, and what is their individual vision to see the organization, and how to overcome if any conflicts happens in future. Third is compatibility, a key to success over here. It is broad compatibility is all about philosophical and shared goals, shared values and visions, and initial relationship building depends on the shared experiences, principles, and vision, because these are the initial phase of the partnership. So compatibility is very, very important in building the relationship. When as a person also, when two people comes together, so the initial phase of meeting or initial phase of partnership depends on their own shared experiences, their own vision for the future life. So similarly in the alliances also it happens in the same manner. Then comes the engagement phase. Engagement phase happens to be when we mark the formalization of alliances between two companies, as it happens with the human beings. While the engagement is done when the things are we explore, we find out all the advantage, disadvantage, how to cope up with the things, and if it is aligned, the objectives or the values or the things are aligned, then they come together and do the engagement, that is formalizing the or announcing the relationship. So similarly in the alliances, during the alliances, the engagement phase makes a formalization of alliance between the two companies. During this stage, the initial informal romantic phase transitions into the structured relationship. So when these both parties plans and finalize the details of their collaboration, they comes in front and sign, or maybe announce their relationship, announce their alliances. So they disclose this to the stakeholders, and of course stakeholder approval is required. Then to strengthen the relationship, product line continuity needs to maintain specific, because formalizing the agreement is all about specific, whether it is specific venture or project, a commitment to resources has to be there. Both parties has to be on the same page, on the basis of the financials or humans or technology, because the ownership and management is not only the it has to be clear, because all the agreements has to be made on to avoid the future conflicts. And continuing autonomy is to maintain the independence of the founders or the owners. So discovery on difference in strategic alliances is a critical phase, because when the things are getting along, there can be some differences also, which may create the to uncover the unforeseen challenges and discrepancies. So stages of alliance evolution is on basis of nascent stage, fragile stage, turbulent stage, and mature stage. So nascent stage is the early stages. That is the when the primarily driven by the strict regulations and limited markets, and the technology licensing, distribution agreements and all. Then it is frenzied state, where the alliances formed in the phase to create to comply with local ownership. Then it's turbulent when the deregulation processes, foreign partners comes more familiar with the local environment, and reevaluation is done. The monitoring is done on the basis of the resources or the research done. And finally, the mature stage is once the emerging market stabilize and regulatory framework becomes more consistent. Alliance evolve into a structure driven business logic rather than the compliance with regulatory frameworks. So all these implications of getting along with the organization or the alliance management is it not only increase the knowledge and skills, because when the partnership happens, certain training programs also require on the cross cultural ways, and the leadership development or fostering the open environment that increase the knowledge and skill of the employees. Adaptation is again seen in changing environment where the regulatory framework restructuring is done, or dissolving the alliances and creating the new alliances. Then is cultural and organizational change shift is seen not only on the on one geographical way, but both on regional and country managers may need to take new roles to address the changing dynamics of alliance and empower the decision making. Then making strategic alliances work is very important, because if the alliance really necessary or would be outright acquisition, um, direct investment or contractual relationship suffice. It has to be keep in mind that how sustainable will an alliance be, given the partner's ambitions and strengths. So, how would the strategy and tactics they adopt to reflect the distant challenges and alliances between the global and emerging marketing companies? So, considering the need for strategic alliances in emerging markets is to uh, to prompting the questions, or maybe to find out to cover up the complexity and challenges, why are we forming the alliance in the first place. So that is very important when the strategic alliance are used are seen as a tool for businesses operations. There are alternative approaches for alliances. One can be virtual alliance. Virtual alliance is creating necessary capabilities by you know coming together on resources and various sources without forming a formal partnership. So hiring experts is very important, because expertise is required at this level, and there are certain success stories are also given on the basis of that. But there are different challenges on alternative approach, because everything comes with the challenges and the how to, and then of course after challenges how to cope up with that. First is management complexity, because while virtual alliances and self-reliance strategies, that is very time consuming, highly skilled management is required, coordination and relationship management has to be very high. Then second is technology adaptability. Such approaches, because technology is widely available, and global brand names aren't critical to success. So it is seen that technology adaptability is also a challenge of alternative approaches. So how to assess the evolution of strategic alliances in emergency markets is to um, seen from a long term and sustainable partnership, or it will be one partner and eventually seek more control. So how we are seeing, how we are assessing the evolution of strategic alliances, that is very important, because both partners has to be on the same platform. They has to be mutually agreed on the relationship, on the processes, or on the alliances. So building a strong coalition is For the long run, it is both partners must focus on building strong coalition on the basis. The basis is mutual trust and commitment to success. The ongoing commitment is all about when the relationship adapt the changing circumstances and require regular communication, shared goals, collaborative effort, and long-term vision. Then is navigating power shifts, that is, as the contribution of each partner evolve, managing potential power shifts within the partnerships is crucial. Practical steps for assessing and managing alliance evolution is the catalog, the current contributions. Each partner should clearly define what they currently bring to the table, predict shifts in the contribution, and negotiate for sustainability, because we are as on today also we are talking about the alliances, and alliances has to be done on the sustainable environment, where the contributions or the power dynamics evolve, and the alliance, then only the alliance remain sustainable once it is properly negotiated, and the contribution is done in a likely to be changed over the period of time or as per the requirement, which can be and should be anticipated and should be planned for that. So the four possible outcomes of these are sustainable power balance, the power shift towards the global partner, and power shift towards the local partners, and the collision. So there are certain practical steps for managing emerging marketing alliances to monitor power dynamics, adaptability to change, because this is very very important. As on the changes are happening, adaptability is equally important. Focus on mutual benefit. Ensure both partners remain committed to the venture's success and foster a strong, adaptable coalition. So, understanding all this in the emerging marketing alliance can follow allows both partners to better prepare for potential changes in power, strategy, and goals. So, alliance strategies can be shape the market, position early, involve in decision making early, and so on. So, thank you so much for today, and we have completed entire MMPA 006. Thank you. Namaste.